All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about who performed best in the 9 games that are played. It doesn't mean that they're the best player in the position or something. I'm just looking at the performance of the first 9 initial games and then just, looking at, maybe having a discussion about strengths and weaknesses and why they stand out as players, So let's begin in the top lane. Are you tired of browsers that just eat up your RAM and just no customization options at all? Do you feel trapped in a relationship with an old and slow browser because you've just used it for so long and all your bookmarks and settings and all that jazz is just all in that same place and you just feel so overwhelming to move on? Well, no worries. Opera GX has got you covered. You didn't install it. Boom, you use the link below. Easy peasy. You press the setting button. Even a bronze player could do this. Are you smarter than the bronze player? Show it. You scroll down, boom. You find the import bookmarks and settings button. You click it, choose your browser, import. You can select the items to import, boom. All of a sudden, you're up to speed and your new life can begin. Now you can use all of the unique features, of course, of Opera GX. The first one that comes to mind is, of course, the Riot Corner. The Riot Corner is something you're going to unlock if you use one of the mods that are, of course, League of Legends related. You scroll down and all the info that you need in regards to any major event that's going on will be here. The last one, of course, was Worlds 2024. You see the calendar, you see all the matches, you can click them and watch them, and you'll be up to speed with anything that is going on, of course, in the global League landscape. You scroll down, you also see the co-streamers. Look at this handsome devil and this beautiful cat. You click this one, of course. I won't judge you. If you click anything else, maybe I will. Nevertheless, the GX Store has a bunch of mods that you can, of course, use to customize your experience. Let me show you how easy it is. Renata Glass, one of my favorite champions, install mod. Let's see how this looks like. Simple press of a button. Boom, everything changes. New tab noise. Keyboard sounds. The beautiful background of Renata looking over Zone. If for some reason you want to mix and match and you want to make it your own, you can do so, of course, in the mod hub. You just press the interface, you pick and choose. You can do fonts, app icons, themes, wallpapers. You can do sounds, keyboard sounds, browser sounds, background music, anything to, of course, your liking, because Opera GX is truly your browser. So what are you waiting for? Make sure to use, of course, the link in the description below to support the channel and to, of course, also download Opera GX. It comes pre-packed with all of these League features. Make your browser truly, truly yours today. Thank you, Opera GX, for, of course, supporting this content. I think the best performing player for me is Broken Blade in the top lane. Maybe even the best performing player of G2 as a whole. I do think that BB switching over to tanks, playing a lot of Cho'Gath, playing the Ornn, the K'Sante. I think that BB is easily the best performing top laner. Insane, not easily, honestly, because Kana was fantastic too, and he is my second. I can already throw him up there. I think BB was so crucial for the team in terms of gaining vision and building momentum, and also fixing their issue surrounding the Atakan fights, because of course they entered at Atakan many moments. And I think BB's impact on macro in terms of how he connects and how he plays was just so crucial to make G2 now a potential contender again for the LEC title. The difference here for Kana, I think that Kana, the big standout, right, is his Jace performance against G2. He completely popped off. I think it's just a matter of flavor. Like, Kana plays the carries and he has space to do so on KC, but BB is filling a very specific niche, and I think that he revived G2's regular split. So I have a lot of respect for that impact, super lot of respect for that impact. Kana, mechanically, super fucking good. I think that he was very consistent and super good. Someone in the chat mentioned that BB ran it down a couple of games. I think the key ones that stands out at Broken Blade's rough games, right, is his Gragas game and Renekton game. Like this one and this one. But when I look at his Cho'Gath game, K'Sante game, his even Poppy game, Ornn game, like these were insanely classy games. And I put a lot of stock into that. I think Kana, really, like, if you want to have the carry player, this is the guy, His Rumble game, Ambessa game, Jace game, super fucking good. But I think that BB really covers up for the weakness of his bot lane in terms of conquesting the map. And I think that's a really crucial detail for me. Very important detail. Kana, you know, if somebody has a different flavor in terms of what they like from top laners, I could see a world where you put Kana above him. But I do think that BB was just too crucial in making G2 a top contender in the end, because obviously they ended on a very decent scoreline after starting off very bad. But if someone told me Kana first, I don't mind that too, because Kana did single-handedly, you know, a lot of focus on Yike smite stealing, but Kana, what he did in that game against G2 was simply phenomenal. He did take a big dump on BB and solo killed Caps on side when they had like an Atakan window. Really good, you know? So it's like, I think Kana had the better start. BB had a pretty rough week 1, but I think G2 as a whole was struggling there. So it's just a matter of flavor, you know? If someone told me Kana is first over BB, I'd be like, I can see that, you know? But it's just a question of, you know, I do think that G2, like without BB here, I don't think G2 would look as good as they did. Really not, you know? I have a big respect for a player that comes down, breaks into mid, puts down division, sets up the play, sets up the fights, because this is where G2 suffered. G2 suffered, and then BB was like, oh, I need to do this for my team to succeed, and adjusted like brilliantly, you know? So I have a lot of respect for that. Third top laner, I do think the conversation past this point isn't super sharp. I think that Oscarinin was super solid. I liked his Ambessa play. I think he is a part of the conversation. I think Midwin was like on and off. I think when he wasn't on Ambessa, wasn't like super exciting. Let's take a look at some other names. Lot and Naknako were kind of inconsistent, a little bit inconsistent for my flavor. You know, Oscarinin has the benefit here of being on a winning team, you know, so some of his weaknesses don't show as heavily. You know, the biggest criticism towards Oscarinin would be like the J-Swap games, the Rumble game. He is often like a money bag that is collected, but he finds ways to be super useful still, and I really like Oscarinin's like Ambessa. This could be like one of those situations where a player gets a lot of benefit from being on a team that you know, wins, but I do think it's you know, good shit. Okay, let's follow up with jungle. I think the easy one here is Razork, number 1. I think Razork and Mickey, like we can already slot them up there. Razork and Mickey together, best jungle support duo. I think Razork had like a bad Vi game against BDS. And also, I think that Razork had a bad Ivan game against, of course, Koi in the Skarner draft in the beginning of the season. But other than that, I do think the jungle support, Mickey X and Razork, they really dominated. The main thing that you could maybe serve up as criticism towards Razork and a question mark maybe coming into it is that a lot of those games with Maokai and Vi, right? And Maokai and Vi have really streamlined the process, but I have like this, bro, Razork to me is basically EU owner, you know? This is EU owner, and he's just mechanically super good, really sharp on the timings. Mickey and Razork is really the main reason why I think that Fnatic is the number 1 contender to win the split. Next in line, I think it's a combination of Yike and Skumond. Yike and Skumond as like Skumond, I do think that in terms of the criticism people levied towards Skumond was because of the smite situations. But I want to like give context to, for example, the G2 versus KC game, that for the majority of that game, G2 versus KC, Skumond had fantastic conditions. If we take a look at this, he found like gang timers on mid, which was super good. Let's fast forward a little bit. Skumond, it's like looking at the condition of the game. He's level 13 to 10. Obviously, I'm not going to break down the whole game, but I really like how Skumond paths, how he presses jungle, how he finds efficiency in the game. I do feel like Skumond is kind of like, who could we compare him to? Maybe like obviously not the same level, because I mentioned owner for Razork, and Skumond kind of reminds me of, you know, like a Tarzan, you know? I think he has a good mix of what he can and cannot play. Like he seems to be decent on all champions, right? And also, you know, I do think that he's just very efficient in his pathing and very decisive in his play, you know? And I like that a lot. Yike, I think that he's very clutch in fights, which is crucial to Casey's success, because I do think that their early games a little bit inconsistent. And when it comes to the consistency of early games, that is something that falls on Yike's shoulders too, and also on Targamas' shoulders. But I think that for consistency, I give Skewmon the higher mark. For Yike being clutch, probably Yike goes higher. In the long run, I do think Skewmon had a really, really good performance in general. So it's like here it's just a question of flavor once again, because I think that in some of the victories that Casey squeezed out, and also like that week when Casey like stomped 3 games straight, week 2, I think Yike was really, really good there, and he was in tune with the game. So I'm fine to do either way, but I'm gonna just put Yike on second. But Skewmon, I think, is a player to look out for. I think that he was also very good for G2, and I think that he showed a lot of different flavor to his gameplay, which I think is cool. You know, you had the Vi games, the Wukong games, the Brand, the Zyra. I think that's chill, you know? I think Skewmon is a really, really good talent. And in the conversation of G2 moving on from Yike, I think it was best for Yike and best for G2 to move on. I think Skewmon is a fantastic signee, and I still stand by the fact that G2 made the mistake of removing Mickey. I think that Yike looks better on KC than he looks on G2, and it's very obvious that Yike had to kind of reshape his role within a team, because sometimes when you're working with a team for very long, you are kind of placed in a box, you know? It's like Yike was a little brother on G2 for so long that I think that he didn't have like a clear identity. On this team, it's very clear that Yike has a bigger responsibility, and he seems to thrive on that. And I think G2 and Yike needed to move on for the best case for themselves, and sometimes that's the case. It's not black and white if a player is going to be better or worse. You know, it's a question of circumstance, situation. It's, you know, super, super important. You know, the Mickey yeet out, I thought it was bad already from the get-go. I tried to press Romain over and over again when we, like in our episode on the Sackdown, I tried to press him. It's like, what are your fears? Do you fear that this is going to be a mistake? You already gave him up one time. Because I am of the opinion that it's a huge mistake, you know? It's a huge mistake. But nevertheless, we have Mickey there, but let's move on to mid lane. I think mid lane, you know, the standout here, you know, the class of mid laners in Vladi, Jackies, and of course, Jojo Pyun. I think that Jackies and Jojo Pyun week 3 was terrible. I think that leading up to week 3, Jackies in my mind was like a top 2 mid laner in the league. But week 3, like Humanoid really smacked these homies around, you know, especially Jackies. You know, he got solo killed. And Humanoid showcase, you know, Humanoid seems to just be back and forth, you know. These new mid laners have given a reason to Humanoid to try again, and Mickey is giving him reasons to try again. And Humanoid showcased why we always think he's so damn good, and we are so surprised when he, you know, kind of ends it. I think Humanoid had a slow start, but he ended way stronger. And in the end, I think that Caps still super, super big standout. You know, the biggest criticism towards Caps, if anything, is his Silas games. And his Silas games really stand out as a sore thumb when it comes to his gameplay. It was the game against Fnatic, where he got completely ganked by Mickey and died to a Leona. And also was that game against BDS that they threw when he didn't hold the choke so well. And also, of course, BB on the Ambassador didn't hold the choke super well either. His Silas games are the biggest point of criticism because his Akali game was really good. His Smolder game was good. His Victor game was good. Like all these were really, really strong performances. And in my mind, like if I have to pick one player out of the new class here in Vladi and Jackie's Jojo Pyun, I do think that Vladi is the one that stood out as the strongest one. I think Vladi stood out as the strongest one out of these three because their week 3 was so damn bad. I think that otherwise, you know, Jackie's after week 2, I did think he was a top 2 mid laner, but then there was a kind of a Giants kind of downfall. So he falls on the wayside here. Let's put him back in his team here with GX. All right, there we go. And then Jojo Pyun as well back into the Koi lineup. And then I will drop Humanoid. I do think, you know, someone mentioned in chat Nuke. I do think that Nuke does a very good job on his champions, right? And I do think that in their victories, it's like BDS, the way they play makes sense because of how Nuke likes to play, you know? It's like Nuke to me is what people think Larson and Joyous think Larson is. But I think that Nuke, when he gets his gold, super impactful. I do think that, you know, he's doing good. But there's some moments that, like, I do think that's too simplistic of a gameplay pattern for me to be able to put them above the other homies, you know? So I think this would be my lineup because Humanoid did so good as things progressed, especially in that matchup against KC, matchup against GX. I think Humanoid games were really good. And, you know, once again, I have my own personal biases. I am biased. You are biased. If you have disagreements, put them in the Twitch chat, put them on YouTube. All is good. This is, of course, for entertainment purposes. So enjoy yourself. All right, let's take a look at AD carries. I think the obvious one is Upset. Upset, insanely consistent, wide range of play, really fucking good. Fuck Misfortune. Don't like when people play Misfortune. I do think Upset is a standout. Next in line, Kalist. Kalist made a massive buzz, plays super confidently, mechanically super good, has a wide range of play. Like Kalist Draven, Kalist Varus, Kalist Ezreal. You know, his Ezreal may be the games that look a little bit harder for him, but I don't think that's his fault. Like that game against Fnatic, I don't think it's his fault, right? But I do think Upset just had, you know, AD is always like that. It's like, you are, as Gumayushi said, the egg of a ramen. And I do think that Upset is a fantastic egg. Really great egg in the most delicious ramen in the whole league right now. Upset, like if you look at the highlight reel of Upset, I do think his Kaiser game, his Kalista game was tremendous, right? He even broke out of his shell and picked a Varus, which is super cool. His Ezreal games are really good. Like I think just the highlight reel is there, you know? It's really there. The game, like that Kalista game against BDS was monstrous. And I don't think that there's, like, in terms of other ADs that can pull a game like that out, you know, when I worked with Upset the last time, Kalista was permabanned. It was let through once. And even in a split where we went 2-7, one of the wins was on Kalista Senna against BDS. So Kalist still super impressive, but we have to weigh in, you know, that matchup they played. And I do think that Kalist still has a lot of great things to offer. And I think the jump between these two and the next AD carries is quite far, if anything, you know. Like looking at the other AD carries that come to conversation, I think Noah, maybe Ice. It's like, it's weird because Koi is a very solid team, but I think in terms of standout performers, I don't think individually they are crazy good besides Alvaro. I think that the biggest selling point for me when it comes to Koi is just how well they play together and how bought in they are to game ideas. So there will be like GX players missing, unless of course we were just going to put Alvaro up there already. Noah, Ice, I think Kazi could be a conversation starter too. Rahel sadly doesn't qualify for me. I think Patrick, no way. Flacked, sadly, no way either. It's like Noah, Ice. I feel like Noah is my choice here. Like I didn't think through my third choice super much, so I'm gonna just follow my gut here. I do think that Noah probably is my guy here to put on 3. I do think that he was pretty damn solid. Kazi as well. Ice. I think probably it will be in this type of an order, you know. What is this ranking based on? It's based on the 9 games they played in regular split. I think Ice was also really good, and I think this his team offered him less at times. Yeah, I struggle here, but I don't want to get stuck. You know, I wake up on a different day. Maybe I put Ice above Noah. Maybe I like Kazi more. You know, is weird. You know, a big question mark for people is going to be Hansama. I think Hansama was too much. Like Hansama is so. Hansama is European Gumayushi, but he doesn't have Keria, which is Mickey. And Hansama is so skewed towards playing AD carries that push. And I don't think that the way G2 functions right now, it doesn't function in a way where that is super useful for them. So you can see in his champion choices, Kalista, Varus, MF, right? His Ezreal, he started picking Ezreal because they recognize this champion is very strong. but it was kind of floppy, you know? It was kind of floppy. It didn't look like he was super comfortable, but it is good for them to branch out. Because funnily enough, you know, if you think about Hansama's career, it's like the champions that he is missing, it is, you know, the Kaiser games, the Zeri games, and of course the Ezreal. You know, these are champions he hasn't had career success on. If you look at Zeri, it's like 40%. His Kaiser is 56%. You know, it's like the AD carries he prefers are Gumayushi AD carries. Like if you remove names, he's basically Gumayushi, you know, in Europe. And that is someone that is like meta dependent. And currently, you know, they try to play the lane dominant AD carries, but I don't think Hansama takes advantage of that as much, right? Like this is legit. Like let's open Gumayushi top 3, okay? Let's just open his it's gonna be like Caitlyn and Jhin, of course, but let's just look at it. It's like Aphelios, Xayah, Varus, Jinx, Kalista. It's like it's up there, you know? And then you see Kaiser here on 38%, and then Zeri, of course, here is lower too on 54. It's like, keep in mind, this is a player that has won super much. So if a player like Gumayushi or Hansama has 54%, that is very low for their standard, you know? You have to keep in mind that this is a player that wins a lot of fucking games. But then you compare it to his Caitlyn, 81. Then you have the Xayah and the Varus, right? He's demonic, you know? Demonic. That's a crazy amount of Aphelios, yeah. Because they were specialists in the Aphelios Lulu meta, if you guys remember, during their Worlds campaigns. Like 2022 and 2023 was a massive Aphelios year. If you pull up 2023, like Aphelios, massive, right? And then 2012 as well was a massive Aphelios year. Okay. So that's why I put Hansama a little bit lower. I don't think he does so well with... He hasn't figured out how he wants to play with Labrov yet, and that's it. I think for support, the standout for me is Jun and Alvaro. I will put Jun above Alvaro, because I think Jun, just in terms of mechanical play and finding crazy, like, engage angles, Jun has done so much. He's just done so much. And I think Alvaro is just really, really good. I think in terms of like the concept of knowing where to be, and I think that I think Alvaro is just my guy. People are gonna ask me, it's like, what about Targamas? I do think that Targamas, for me currently, I understand, like I work with Targamas. I understand the intangibles that he brings to the table in terms of draft and in terms of, you know, his feedback between the games. I think Targamas is probably very important for how KC play. But what we are seeing in the server right now, I do think in terms of play, I do think Targamas is my only concern in terms of how far the KC ceiling can go. I think that when it comes to playing against Fnatic, I do think, for example, Mickey is always going to be a very, very big problem for Targamas in terms of, you know, map impact. I think Targamas sometimes misplays the lanes, sometimes mispositions, and currently it's like KC, I rated them as third best, but I need to see more from Targamas. I need to see more from him. So this is going to be my All-Pro. I think that's a very, very good place to land. I'm very happy with how it looks. I think, yeah, I like it. I really, really like it, bro. I really, really like it. Yeah, I like this a lot, man. I like this a lot. I don't like Noah on 3 is the only one that maybe is interchangeable with Ice, right? But I mentioned that already. I don't think I have anything more to add. Any final questions? Any final questions, team? I think if I had to choose an MVP, right? If I had to choose an MVP of the earlier part, I do think that BB and Mickey stands out. But like Mickey and BB really, really stand out in terms of MVP performances. But that's a question of like circumstance. I feel like KC is a team that's very balanced in how much each player does, you know? It's very, very balanced in how much each player does. I'm just thinking, you know, just in terms of like how much they needed to do for the team's success. I do think that like Mickey in the super role was just fantastic. And BB just reshaped how G2 play, you know? So there's that. Thank you very much for watching, guys.